want to talk about implementing enterprise governance of IT using COBIT 5, a business-driven approach. And we're going to see why we say it's a business-driven approach. And we're going to come to that. But just before I did that, I think, yeah, these were the many things that you were talking about. Just forget about the picture. I was 50 years when they took the picture, so I've gone a little bit younger. I think one thing just to mention, yeah, is that I'm also a board member of ISACA, South Africa. I also sit on the board for the COBIT exam, so I'm responsible for setting the COBIT exam. I've been a number of times to Chicago to set the exam, and we are still going to do that as well. I'm a subject matter expert in COBIT 5, so if you look in all the COBIT 5, from process enabler to implementation to framework, you see my name there as well. We are also doing COBIT 5 for assurance. It's coming out very soon in the second quarter of 2013. Yeah, we've just come to the second quarter. Expect COBIT 5 for assurance to come out just now. And then there's also going to be COBIT 5 for risk. I'm also a development member there. And a lot of that. So I've been to Chicago, I've been to everywhere. But let's get into the business of the day. So why do you want to talk about implementing an IT governance framework? Here is what is happening currently. I want to call them the irrevocable forces, and I call them the big six. Not the elephant, not the lion, but I'm talking about these big six. So we have a bring your own device. And I understand, how many of us here have got Kanban emails sitting on their iPads? Show by the raising of your hand. Almost everyone. How many of us have got Kanban emails sitting on their Blackberries? Okay, almost everyone as well. So that's it about bring your own device. Every Kanban, every organization, people are taking now their gadgets to do the work. And in addition to that, how many of us have heard about the big data concept? Okay, so these are some of the big six that is happening. And you've got social media. How many of us are on Facebook? If you're on Facebook, if you're on LinkedIn, so almost everyone is on LinkedIn. I was so shocked a few months ago. I looked at the Coca-Cola Facebook page. I was in Israel and I was talking about the governance and assurance of social media. When I looked at the Coca-Cola Facebook page, there were 60 million followers. And just a week ago, I was doing some training somewhere, and I checked, the number has increased to 65 million. So only in 1 month, the follow-up for Coca-Cola Facebook page has increased by 5 million. And in addition to that, I think the speaker that was here spoke about cloud computing. These are the things that are happening. They are irrevocable. Whether you want it, whether you like it, these things are going to take shape in the IT environment. So whether we are government, whether we are municipality, bring your own device is a reality. Cloud computing is an irrevocable reality. It's taking place, it's happening, and the biggest provider at the moment is a company called Amazon. Now, one of the things as well is increased mobility. You can do the work wherever you want it, however you want it, whether you're in a train, whether you're in the plane, you can do that. It's amazing the way these initiatives are taking over the IT world. So, and we also have another development called the Internet of Things. How many of us have seen that if you've got a Gmail account or a YouTube account, automatically when you go to your YouTube, your profile is downloaded automatically? How many of us experienced that? So what that entails is that a user, as an individual, you are being profiled. I always say, be careful about the websites or the videos that you watch, because you are being profiled as an individual. So once we see you, and with the development of Google Glass, we can be able to say, oh, this is the person. So this is the development that is taking place in the IT environment. But what is happening is that the rate at which this technology is developing is superseding the governance and the controls. I've always asked one thing, and I'll take this opportunity to ask people. We have chief audit executives in the room as well. How many of us have got social media as an audit plan for their 2013 audit? Can I see by raising of your hand? How many of us in this room have got bring your own device as one of their scope for the 2013 audit? One person. How many of us are going to audit cloud computing? I've got 3 hands. But what you see is that this is a development that is taking place, and this is where the risk now is lying. So, there is need to shift. How many of us are looking at audit, big data as an audit in 2013? And I'll be speaking in Florida on the changing focus of IT audit. Because what I see at the moment is that a lot of people are focusing on IT general controls, a lot of people are focusing on application control reviews, but the risk is actually shifting to the next. And obviously, we have a lot developed taking place in the legal and regulatory environment. A lot of regulations are taking, and here in South Africa, we now have POPI that have just developed. How many of us have taken a view at the POPI? You've spent some time, looked at the POPI, and determined the implication of POPI on your IT or on your IT environment. So, a lot of regulations are taking place, and they've got an impact on the way we do things. They've got an impact on the way you operate as an organization. And you find that most of the organizations are not keeping abreast of the regulations that are coming in, but irrevocably, these things have got an impact on the way you do business. And failure to comply, it results in huge reputational risk. I know we have spoken up this in 2012, Mr. Bob Diamond was actually fired from Barclays because of the Liberate as a result of failing to comply to legal and regulatory compliance. Now, these are the developments that are taking place. But I want to talk about the familiar IT environment. Now, these are the things that are known about the IT environment. Poor integration. I was invited to a certain organization, and I was invited into the IT steering committee, and I was just as an advisor and as an observer. I was shocked to see that more than 5 systems that were implemented that costed the company over 10 to 50 million, they were never utilized. I shall not mention the name of the organization, but just for you to know. So we have got a lot of things that are happening in the current IT environment as it is. We have got wasted resources, and I've just given an example. We have got high costs. IT is known of just chewing up cost, but without delivering the value. We have got complexity. IT, when everyone hears about IT, they think about complexity. They think about the barbed twine that is not working. Everything is not working together. Now we have got slipping through the cracks. They've got a lot of risk within the IT, a lot of unauthorized users, a lot of fraudulence being used through the IT systems, a lot of lack of controls within the IT environment, lack of visibility. Many of the executives are failing to see the value that IT is bringing. I know of an organization that is implementing a system, and that system has costed the organization over 10 billion. And I was just listening to some walls today. They are retrenching, despite the fact spending 10 billion in the IT. So this is how the current IT environment is known of. If you ask anyone, this is how they know the IT environment. Right. Now, we want to talk about implementing an IT governance framework. That IT governance framework, I want to say, why do we need an IT governance framework? So we have spoken about the emerging technology, and we have spoken about the legal and regulatory environment. But here is an environment that I like to paint: firefighting approach. Now, what does the firefighting approach mean? So we've got the CIO right at the forefront, we've got the Chief Security Officer and the CEO. All what they're doing on the IT is a firefighting approach. A firefighting approach is that there is no proactive approach to the governance and management of IT. What we simply have is the board or senior management who are reluctant to engage in IT initiatives. Most of the business people, they view that the IT is a business, is an issue of IT. Now that's where the start of the problem is. To resolve that, the business executives and the board of directors should be involved in the running and governance of IT. Significant business instances that are related to IT. Systems are down, HR is not working, finance is not working because most of the systems are down. Now, have regulatory and contractual penalties, repeat findings and qualified audits. No, so for as long as you've got a reactive approach to IT, repeat findings and qualified audits, you're not going to run away from them. As long as you don't go to the root cause and address the root cause through a proactive IT governance framework, you cannot address the issues. So outsourcing problems leading to business failing to meet its goals. And the speaker that was here has spoken about the outsourcing issues. So what do you need? You need a framework to govern your outsourcing. Now, costly failed IT initiatives. And in most cases, one thing that I've seen that most organizations spend money, most organizations spend time and resources, but without seeing the value or without driving the value from what they're spending the money on, the time on, there is no value for that. IT projects that do not address business needs. No, like I said earlier on when I was asking, every IT project should be directly related to a business objective. The reason, before you start an IT project, the questions that you need to ask yourself is, why are we spending the money on this project? Why are we spending the time on this project? What is the value of the money? And obviously we can talk of issues like, who is accountable for delivering the benefits? In most cases, accountability is not defined. In most cases, responsibility is not defined. So you always have IT-enabled investments that are being delivered late and out of the budget. And no one has got the audacity to say, hold on, this project is no longer a strategic fit. We need to stop it. Yes, we have spent millions, but we need to stop it, right? So these are the current issues that take place in IT. But in addition to that, there are what are called trigger events for the governance and management of IT. Now, some of the trigger events are mergers and acquisitions, change of policies, change of vision, change of strategy, and change of your goals. When your goals and your business objectives change, there is need to ensure that you also implement an IT governance framework that is aligned to your requirements and needs. We can go forward. I'm not going to go through all this. Now, I want to introduce a business framework for the governance and management of enterprise IT. The mistake that we always have seen is that COBIT is regarded as an IT framework. And I'm here to clarify that tonight. COBIT is not an IT governance framework. COBIT is a business framework for the governance and management of IT. So we always had the notion that COBIT is an IT framework. No, that's a wrong notion. COBIT is a business framework for the governance and management of enterprise IT. So here I've got a small issue that's saying IT is complicated. Governance of enterprise IT does not have to be. So here is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do what I call an anatomy of COBIT 5. So let's go ahead. A lot of questions have been asked on what is the difference between COBIT 5 and COBIT 4.1. And I'm going to show you that difference today. So in COBIT 4.1, we have 4 domains. The domains that we have in COBIT 4.1, we have got plan and organize. We have got acquire and implement. We have got deliver and support. We have got monitor and evaluate. Now what we had in COBIT 4.1, we used to have control objectives. Now those control objectives are no longer available in COBIT 5. Now, in addition to the control objectives, we had 34 processes. We also had 208 control objectives. And the process of managing or assessing COBIT 4.1 was capability maturity model. Now, we have now moved to ISO ISO IE 15504. Now you find that because there are no more control objectives, COBIT 5 no longer stands for control objectives for information and related technology. So you ask me, what is COBIT? COBIT is now a brand. It's now a framework, a business framework for the governance and management of IT. So forget about the control objectives. The argument why the control objectives fall out is that how do you start with your controls without understanding your business? So you cannot start with your controls. You need to understand with the understanding of your business in order for you to govern your enterprise. Now, let's move on. So with the development of COBIT 5, which is a business framework for the governance and management of enterprise, COBIT 5 has integrated all the frameworks that ISACA had developed. So it has integrated COBIT 4.1, it has integrated Value IT, it has integrated COSO, it has integrated the business model for information security. So all these frameworks are put together in COBIT. Okay. And also, then the principles of COBIT 4.1 are also integrated in COBIT 5. Yes, we can move on. Now, why is COBIT why is COBIT a business-driven framework? I want to show how. Now, with COBIT 5, what do we start on? We start about identifying the stakeholders drivers. So every organization has got its own stakeholders. The stakeholders of a government organization are different from the stakeholders of a private company. The stakeholders of a bank are different from the stakeholders of a business organization. So every stakeholder needs, they centralize between benefits realization. Every stakeholder needs to get the value for their money. Every stakeholder needs to ensure that the risks are optimized. So what do we mean by risk optimization? Are we getting the value? Are we preserving the value? Okay, every organization, government or private, they need to ensure that their resources are optimized. Now, these key stakeholder goals, they translate into what is called enterprise goals. So each and every organization has got its own goals. And then the enterprise goals are then translated or cascade into IT-related goals. And then we have got enabler goals. The question that I always get is that COBIT has done what is, and if you may move on, I'm not going to talk about through this convoluted slide. This convoluted slide is just to show you that you start by identifying the enterprise goals. And COBIT has identified 17 generic enterprise goals. You don't need to use the COBIT 5 17 goals as they are. You don't need to do that. These are just generic goals. So what you're taking here, if you are implementing COBIT 5, you don't go in COBIT 5 and take the 17 goals as they are. You define your own enterprise goals. They don't need to be 17. Neither do they need to be 50. Neither they do need to be 0. You need to define your own enterprise goals based on the requirements of your stakeholders. Now, after understanding your enterprise goals, your enterprise strategy, which is different from one enterprise to another, you then define the IT-related goals that will help you to achieve your enterprise goals. Remember, IT is an enabler. So if you are going to go the cloud direction, what is the business value that you want to achieve by you going to the cloud? Before you go the social media direction, what is the enterprise goal or the enterprise strategy that you need to achieve by going to social media, by going to the cloud, or by utilizing the big data concept? If you say you now want all your employees to bring their own device to the organization, what is the business objective that you want to achieve by that? And how are you going to make sure that that business objective is governed? And those goals are not only goals, but they're being identified from the onset of the stakeholder needs. So if you are in a parastatal, your stakeholder is government. What is their objective? What is an IT component that is going to help them achieve that goal? So that's all about mapping your enterprise goals to your IT goals. So you are using IT to enable the achievement of your goals. We can proceed, sir. Now, what COBIT 5 has done is to identify what are called principles. We didn't used to have these principles in COBIT 4.1. And the principles are meeting stakeholder needs. So, why are you implementing an enterprise governance of IT? Because you want to meet your business stakeholder needs, not your IT stakeholder needs. Because IT is enabling the achievement of your business goals. Okay, the next one is covering an enterprise end-to-end. Because COBIT 5 has incorporated all the best practice, so it enables you to cover the enterprise from end-to-end point of view. You apply a single integrated framework. When you're using COBIT 5, I visited many convoluted environments. One department is using ITIL, another department is using ISO 2700, another department is using a certain framework, another department is using COSO, another department is using Six Sigma. So there is a convoluted approach. Because you know what? It's starting at a department need goal. But that's not enterprise governance of IT. Enterprise governance of IT is when you start by identifying your stakeholder driver needs, you identify your organizational strategy, and then you define IT goals to achieve your IT. So it's being driven from the top. It's not being driven from the bottom. It's enabling a holistic approach, separating governance from management, and I'm going to come to that quickly. Now, COBIT understands that for you to implement enterprise governance of IT, you need enablers. Now, what are these enablers? We've got policies, principles, and framework. So you need a framework of some kind. The second enabler that we have is processes. You need formalized processes. Processes signed and recognized and agreed at the top. The tone at the top is very key. Another enabler that we have is skills, ethics, and behavior. Very, very, very key. So the tone at the top kind of like determine your ethics and culture. You also need organizational structures. You need structures that are supportive of your enterprise governance of IT initiatives. You need the right information, you need services, infrastructure, and applications, and you also need the right people, the right skills. You don't need relatives, but you need the right skills. Okay. I know I was going to rave some names there. Okay, we can proceed, sir. I'm just rushing this quickly. Now, separating governance from management. In COBIT 4.1, there was no separation of governance and management. Now, what does separating governance from management mean? You have the roles of senior executives and the board defined. And you've got the roles of management well defined. Obviously based on organizational strategy and objectives. That's where all this is cascading from. Now, what does governance do? The role of governance is to evaluate, direct, and monitor. Now, what is the role of management? The role of management is to plan, build, run, and monitor. Now, the question that I always get is, what is the difference between the monitor here and the monitor that is here? So when you plan, build, run, you need to do the monitoring of your planning, your building, and your running. When you direct strategies, you also need to monitor your strategies. Strategies change every day. But one thing that I've seen in most organizations is that the audacity to take decisions and stop projects is not there. So if a certain organization starts a project and they've spent $1 billion on the project, but after when you do your monitoring, you do realize that this project is no longer a strategic fit for organization. And I'm going to rev some names as well here. Because they are friends, because they are relatives that are doing the project. So if you stop the project, friends and relatives will lose work. So what happens? We have to continue with the project, even though the project is no longer a strategic fit. And I'm saying, I know this doesn't happen in this in this platform here. I'm just talking. So you cannot stop that project because many people end up losing their project, right? But I think one key component of effective governance, of enterprise governance, is having the audacity to say, hold on guys, we have spent 1 billion, we have spent 5 billion, yes. But this project is no longer in line with our strategy. We need to stop it. That's one success factor of enterprise governance of IT. Now, so this is the key distinction here. Now, the 5 domains that have been introduced in COBIT 5. The first domain is governance. And governance is evaluate, direct, and monitor. That's the governance. The management component is the plan, which is align, plan, and organize. Notice that the first word is align. What are you aligning with? You're aligning with your organizational strategy and objectives. That is key. I always say that if any IT-enabled project or an IT objective cannot be traced to a specific business or enterprise goal, that IT objective should be discarded. You're wasting time. You don't need it. It's of no value to the organization. Now, after you plan, what do you need to do? You build, acquire, and implement, right? That's the build component. It's build, acquire, and implement, right? But what we have now is most organizations, they start here. Or they want to start here. So the run components, they deliver service and support. Obviously, you then provide the monitoring component. Let's go see. Now, in COBIT 5, we have got 37 processes. 37 of those processes are, 5 are in the governance domain, and 32 are in the management domain. We can go ahead. Right. So, and I've just spoken that I'm not going to do. So you see that there is no control objectives in COBIT 5. You can't start with controlling what you don't know. Then you end up having high cost controlling nothing. A cost that you cannot directly relate to an objective should not be there. A control that you cannot directly map to a business objective, that control should be discarded. Okay. Now, we have got 210 practices in COBIT 5. 210 practices. In COBIT 4.1, we had 208 control objectives. Now we no longer have control objectives, we now have practices. 15 of them are in the governance domain, and 190 of them are in the management domain. Now we're no longer using capability maturity model to measure where are we and where we are coming off. We now have ISO 15504, and we have to move with speed. These are the management processes. In the align, plan, and organize, we have got 13 processes. In the build, acquire, and implement, which is your run, we have got 10 processes. In the deliver, service, and support, we've got 6. And in the monitor, evaluate, and assess, we've got 3. We can proceed. Now, why do you need to have a governance enterprise of IT? You need that because that enables you to give a common language between management and governance. The reason why people thought that COBIT is an IT framework, because people use IT language when they talk of enterprise IT. Now, with COBIT 5, with a governance framework, there's clear policy development and more efficient and successful audits, because it's got an proactive approach. Clear ownership, responsibility based on process orientation. So when you implement an enterprise governance of enterprise, there's clear ownership, clear responsibilities, and clear accountabilities. Let's proceed. So always the trick that people get is that when you implement an enterprise governance of IT, It's not a one-size-fits-all process. You need to make sure that your process are aligned with your organizational ethics and culture, your legal and regulatory environment. The environment that affects a different organization is different from one organization to another. The impact of POPI on a bank is different from the impact of POPI on an IT organization. So you need to understand very well your environment. You need to ensure that you have understood your roles and responsibilities. If you go to a government organization and you say CEO, they will throw you out of the window. So you need to make sure that you understand the organization. You understand the context of the organization before you go ahead. So what are you doing? You are moving from firefighting to a proactive approach of the governance of enterprise of IT. Cut your own loan size. One size does not fit all. Let's proceed safe. Implementing IT governance is a continuous process. Identify where you are, understand where you are, identify where you want to be, understand how do you want to get there. What is your roadmap? What do you want to achieve? Obviously, you have points. Where are you doing very well? Where do you need to move? Okay, we can move. So, it's all about, are we doing the right things? Are we doing them right? Are we getting them done well? And are we getting the benefits? We have to get the benefits. If we are not getting the benefits, it's not a worthwhile exercise. Okay, that's exactly about it. Questions?
Hello. When do you think we'll ever get to a point where we're doing proactive work and stop the firefighting approach? Because time and time again this comes up and it's the same story year after year and people sit together and discuss stuff, but you never actually see the change where the proactive starts coming into play and you start seeing the value.
My answer to that is that I've seen organizations that are doing that, and I think the speaker that was here spoke about the AG. They've already started to do that. They're doing that. They're taking a proactive approach. I know of organizations that are doing that, where the CEO and the lines of business executives are taking a proactive role in determining the role of IT-enabled projects, IT-enabled investments. They are taking a lead role and they are implementing COBIT 5. A lot of organizations, they have started to do that. They've started to put frameworks in place. So I see it coming. Is it a once-off process? No, it's not a once-off process. It's a continuous process. It will take time to get there. But with the right culture, that's why COBIT speaks about the 7 enablers: culture, ethics, behavior, communication, processes, frameworks, principles. Those are the right things. You need to have those things in place. Organizations are starting to do that. Changing culture is an uphill task, but that's the starting point of implementing the right enterprise governance of IT. But can you imagine just going to change a culture of a certain organization in one day? It's going to take you a long time. Any additional question? Yes, sir.
Thank you. In terms of the build, acquire, and implement phase, I see there's a lot of processes that talk to change management. Could you elaborate on that first?
I mean, everything that you're going to do without the right change management, it's not going to work. And change management talks about changing the culture, changing the behavior, looking at the ethics. So change management is a key process in all of this. For you to change the culture, you need a good change management. You need the right buy-in, you need the right tone at the top, otherwise you're bound to fail. So you need the appropriate change management. Change management has become pervasive in almost everything that we need to do. We need to make sure that we've got, it's unfortunate that this slide, I normally share this slide in 2 hours time, and I've just squashed it to 45 minutes. I I was going to dwell very much on things like culture, ethics, behavior, which are very, very key. So I find what COBIT is doing is that if you look, for example, at the assurance side, the side of enablers for the process, then the side for the actual assurance. Now the other side for the enablers is putting, for example, if you are putting the enterprise governance of IT, what are the enablers that you are going to put in place for you to be able to do that? Key to them is change management. So it's a very, very pervasive key area. There was another question here.
Just a question, I'm just interested in what both speakers were addressing on the 3 E's and the comment you made on sometimes there's no audacity in the boards to, to call it off when a project no longer is a strategic fit. I'm just battling to balance at what point do you then, as an organization or an IT function, balance the 3 E's and calling off that which is no longer a strategic fit, understanding that some of the reasoning behind it would have been that there are people who are going to lose their jobs, but sometimes it's just
I was joking, by the way.
No, but I'm just thinking sometimes the issue becomes we've already spent so much, and now calling this thing off is almost like equals to waste from an economical scales.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Part of the governance of IT-enabled investment is monitoring. Remember, if you look at the governance side, there is monitoring. If you look at the plan, build, and run, there is also monitoring. Now, every IT-enabled project, for those to achieve those 3 E's, it must be governed by a business case. And a business case is a dynamic document. It's a living document. And in implementing every IT-enabled project, there's got phases. Initiation, the business case, the start, the seeding, the testing, and it goes on. Post-implementation, all those stages are there. At every and each stage, you do monitoring. Are we still doing the right thing? Are we still strategic fit for this? So you don't wait until you come to an end. You build in some processes. Remember the 7 enablers: processes, principles, frameworks, people, behavior, structures. You build all those 7 enablers into place, and you monitor on a continuous basis. So if I've got a 5-year project, I will have a steering committee for that. I've got a board program for that, which ensures that the reward, the benefits realization of this project are monitored at each and every stage. You can't wait until implementation and come back and say, no, that project is no longer a strategic fit. There's what are called gateway stages, or stage gates, where you look at every gate and say, can we go ahead or not? So if you've got the right structures, the right frameworks, the 3 E's should be able to achieve. I don't know if you want to add something. Thank you very much. Last question.
Thanks for the opportunity. It's quite a question. And this one is for me, more than a question, some kind of a humble request. Particularly to the EGIT office. The South African Public Service, they have got a recently approved IT governance framework. It's almost wholly based on the ISO 38500, and there are a couple of issues around implementability around that. So if that could be relooked, I think it would assist the public service very much. Point number one. Point number 2 is, one of the things the 2 things that are important. You can have your own frameworks and processes. Implementability of that becomes very important. Now, what becomes the role of the executive authority in a public institution, given the fact that the expectation that the involvement should come from the most senior person in the organization? By the way, what does that refer to the minister?
Okay. I remember I was speaking at the GTOC, and Jabu was also there, and I was asked that same question. And I went to another government department in their steering committee. So they were sitting in IT strategy committee, and they said to me, so Teach, what should we do here? Can you advise us? Here's my answer to you, say, specifically on that one. From where I stand at the moment, I don't want to be exactly that advisor or a third party that the speaker spoke about recently. They just come in and go. In my view, the role of the minister, it needs to be understood very well as it relates to enterprise governance of IT. And from where I stand at the moment, I don't have detailed information of the structures of the DG, the structure of the minister, what are the roles that they perform. If I were to come and, if I were to advise that correctly, I would need a detailed understanding of your ministry. Then I'll be able to say, this is the specific role for the enterprise governance of IT. Understanding your environment precedes the framework. So COBIT 5 does not precede your environment. Your environment precedes COBIT 5. Now, talking about ISO 38500 and COBIT 5. What COBIT 5 has done is all these 5 principles you see here, they are ISO 38500 principles. So COBIT has kind of like integrated all the frameworks together. Now, here is also the thing. If you look at COBIT 5, I spoke about the 17 generic goals. COBIT 5 does not take the 17 generic goals. We have got over 210 practices. COBIT 5 does not take all the 210 practices. Understand your organization, which processes and procedures suit your organization, and then you map the road forward. Otherwise, if you take the 200, and this is the problem that we have with auditors, and I hope I'm saying this in the right environment. You have auditors taking all the 210 processes, and then they go to the head of IT and do tick box auditing. You are not doing this, COBIT says do this. You are not doing this, COBIT says this. Yes, that's an income. Okay. Just withdraw that word from me. That's an incompetent auditor. Understand your business, the entity that you are reviewing. Understand the processes that are applicable to that environment. It's about, if you are to deliver value in IT audit, key thing is to understand the environment. You don't need to be a tick the box audit. Understanding the environment is very, very, very key. Okay, now what I need to say is that, and I removed the slide from here, is that COBIT is implementing this COBIT 5 assessment. So there's a whole pack in assessment. It enables you how to assess COBIT 5. And if you are a member of ISACA, all those are free for downloads. You can download them. There are about 3 books on COBIT 5 assessment. There's also COBIT 5 for assurance, or COBIT 5 for auditors. It's coming in. And there's also going to be a certification for COBIT 5 auditors. So COBIT 5 for assurance certification is also coming in. There's also going to be COBIT 5 for risk certification. It's also coming in. The books are also coming. They're also going to be available. At the moment, there are 2 courses that are being provided from a COBIT 5 point of view. There's COBIT 5 introduction workshop. It's a 1-day or a 2-day workshop. You can take it just to familiarize yourself. For that one, there's no certificate. There's another one called COBIT 5 Foundation Certificate. It introduces you to COBIT 5 in more detail, and you can write an exam and then get a certificate. The exam has got 50 questions. Pass mark is 25%, 33%. For some, it depends on which direction you're coming from. And, I will explain sometime after this. For you to write COBIT 5 for risk and COBIT 5 for assurance, you need COBIT 5 Foundation Certificate. You cannot do COBIT 5. Another one also is going to be COBIT 5 Assessment Certificate. You sit down and write it. But for you to all do this, and another one again is COBIT 5 Implementation. But you cannot write assurance, assessment, implementation, and risk without the Foundation Certificate. You need the Foundation Certificate first. The Foundation course is a 2-day course. It introduces you to the whole COBIT 5. Any question? any additional question, I'm available 24/7. Thank you very much for your time.